Supporting your home educated child is going to be hard work, but in this article, or in this video, the goal is to help you work through the process so that it doesn't become hugely overwhelming for the whole family. Because deciding to home educate deciding to home educate your child is a huge decision, but at the same time, you know in your heart of hearts that it is the right one for you and your family. Because very often the mainstream education system doesn't work for every child. And so, and that can be for any reason. It may be anxiety, neurodiversity, bullying, to name just a few of the reasons which some parents decide to home educate their child. And alongside the added perceived workload, there's also the emotional commitment. Will it be hard work being a parent and teacher? Will you be good enough? Can you make this work? And then for many parents, there's also the financial implications of deciding to support their child at home. So, however, having said that, there is an increasing amount of support out there to make sure that you can make this a success. However, there is an increasing amount of support out there to ensure that you can make this a success, either in the short term until you find a school which is relevant for them, or in the long term until they finish their education. For some parents, the attraction of homeschooling is about not having to follow a rigid curriculum which hasn't proven to be appropriate for your child. However, on one hand, right now, that may also appear to be no roadmap. You've just been kind of like put down in the middle of nowhere and left to your own devices. But and you also need to balance your needs with their however, you also still need to balance their needs with your own emotional well-being. Especially being a parent of a neurodiverse child, it can be particularly demanding. You love them with all your hearts, but at times family life just seems to have that extra layer of resistance and burnout, not just theirs, but yours as well. And for some parents, the financial consequences, like I say, of supporting their child may be huge, especially if they need to find external support to help with some aspects of the curriculum. So, however, having said that, there are some families that I've worked with which have been able to get support from the local council if you've decided to homeschool your child because you can't find a local school which is suitable for their needs. So, to find out more details, what I would do is I would speak to local education departments at the local council, and they will be able to guide you into the right direction as to who can support you with this. However, please do be aware that the process can be a slow one. More good news is that the fact that there is no such thing as a perfect homeschool day or any other day, to be honest. There will be days when you think, wow, but there are also going to be days when you kind of think, wow. But remember, there is no such thing as progressing too slowly. As my ex-father-in-law used to say, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's so much better to go slowly and ensure the foundations are thoroughly in place rather than rushing on, rushing ahead, and then having to go back and recover things because that will knock your child's confidence. And it doesn't matter how slow the process is. The fact is that one way or another, slow and steady, step by step, you will get there in the end. And remember what strengths your child has and use those to support your child moving forward. They may not be conventional, but that's what makes them so special, which is what makes them them and you. And small steps can make such a huge difference. The thing is, we don't have to do everything today. As long as we do something, and even then, there's days when that's not essential. We just have to take every single day as it comes. Use short, flexible routines, especially for those children who are ADHD or autistic, and then end each day on a high. Finish early rather than fighting to the bitter end when every moment just feels like a challenge. Because if you do that, next time you come to start, it's going to feel so much harder. And sometimes we just need to take a break and come back to it again with a new approach. Nothing is set in stone, especially as a homeschooling parent. You have regained control for you and your child, and you can make the timetable to suit you and your family. Give your child choices. It helps to give them autonomy. And the more control they have, the more ownership that they take, the more empowered that they will become. But not only that, it also frees up your time and your resources. So, right, from having to make all the decisions, use their interests and their strengths to structure the learning. One of the lads I used to work with quite a few years ago, who was only ever supposed to be for the summer holidays, and they lived a good 45 minutes away from us. And at that time, I was only charging £10 an hour. So it was literally supposed to be short term because I wasn't earning anything from it. In fact, I was probably making a loss. But the first week I turned up, the mum invited me in, and the lad, probably about 5 or 6 years old, sat at the table looking head down, looked like he wanted to cry. And I introduced myself and showed him the games that I'd brought with me. And the mum had mentioned that he likes cars and maps and things like that. So I'd created a road map game where you move around the streets and answer the questions as you go. And by the end of the first lesson, he looked quite proud of the stickers he had achieved. And when I arrived the second week, he'd come to the door with his mum, who sat there sheepishly behind her. And then by week 3, he sat on the doorstep waiting for me. But it was just because we took small incremental steps and focused it on things that were important to him, things that he enjoyed. And so many times, conversations I've had with parents is about how they lack confidence or how their child lacks confidence. And I'm sure that if we can boost their confidence in one area and incorporate the things that they are interested in, it will trickle into other areas of their lives as well. And home is supposed to be a safe space for you and your child. And remember to prioritize their emotional safety over ticking the boxes. You both need to feel in control and safe. Nothing is more important than your relationship. I worked with a lad a few years ago, and his dad had died a few months previously of cancer. And his mum always made a thing about the fact that she would never push him to the extent that it would cause an argument or bad feeling between them because their relationship was just too important. And this is so true. And I think we need to remind ourselves of that from time to time. And these days, there's also a huge homeschooling community out there. So please do connect with them. Many of many of them, no doubt, are in a similar situation to what you were in and can empathize exactly with you. You don't have to feel like you're doing this in a vacuum. You don't have to feel like you're doing this by yourself. Put your hand out and ask others. Just put your hand up and ask others for support and guidance. You'll find that most people are only too keen to help. Every parent wants what's best for their child. And that's why we created the Clara James approach. The goal is that it's a safe, supportive place for parents like yours to not just find maths and English resources and games, but also ideas and encouragement and genuine support and guidance that actually works in real life. We've all now also invited secondary school family or secondary school children into the approach as well, because an increasing number of children are looking for support when they progress into secondary school years. There is a link below if you would like more information. Please click. And if you have any questions at all, please do get in touch.